I'd rather be righteous than be right. Like, because that was my thing. In my marriage, I had to be right all the time. I was right with a degree from right state with sprinkles of rightness on top of it. Okay, that was my thing. Yes, but I gave it up. I give that up, and I prefer His righteousness, which is way better.
Hey, beautiful people, and welcome to another segment of Soul Talk by Modern Woman, where we gather to share stories about our lives that create a safe space where our sisters can listen, hear other women who are going through things that they have gone through, are going through, and find answers and healing and growth and solidarity. This podcast is so wonderful to me because it is just creating a space where we can hear the stories of other sisters and know I'm not alone, and even find some answers and encouragement and hope so we can continue living and loving and owning who we are. I'm Alicia Nicole, the founder of Modern Woman, and I'm so glad that you chose to tune into this episode 6 of Soul Talk, and this is our series Finding Identity in Love. We are in part 3. If you've listened to part 1 and part 2 of this series, you know it is fire. It is so good. Wendy and I are having amazing conversation about what it's like to know and own and love your own unique identity in relationships and outside of relationships. This is something men and women go through. We talk about it from a uniquely female perspective, and I'm loving it. So with no further ado, I am going to get right into the episode. Let's get into it.
I'm going to double back. Well, so you were talking about your experience with growing and finding and being defined in God in the context of marriage. And I wanted to share a little bit about how it was the opposite for me, because I kind of touched on it, but I wanted to clarify that a little bit for any of our single people out there who were like, what what is it like to find yourself completely single all the time? That's not the best way to say it, but what is another aspect of how that looks? When I was little, I was probably 12, I told the Lord, the man I date will be the man I marry, and you choose him. Where or why I thought I should pray that prayer, it had to have come from God. I was standing in the hallway talking with a little friend who had just broken up with her boyfriend, and she was just devastated. And I asked my teacher if I could go and help her and just console her a little bit. And I was like, this is ridiculous, because my little friends were dating around this one same little circle. So within 2 school years, all of them had dated. There were 3 or 4 of them that had 3 or 4 guys that had dated all of the 3 or 4 girls. It was funny. Whatever. That's what apparently kids do in middle school. I never understood it. And I'm like, I can bypass all this heartache and put it in the Lord's hands. Well, what happened was I didn't know. I think it was that prayer protected me because I did not have a healthy self-image for a lot of years. And when I hit my 20s I thought, number one, that the Lord's just going to send somebody right when I wanted them, because I prayed such a notable, honorable thing.
Yeah.
He was like, no, kid, that's actually not how it's going to work at all. And I resented that. But then there's this point when I was maybe 21 or 22, and I was in a really low place. And I remember telling the Lord, if perchance you were going to send someone, don't send him now, which God wouldn't have, because he knew. I was like, and if perchance the enemy knows how weak I am right now and would want to send someone to pursue me who was not right for me, block every single guy, because I'm not ready. Because I knew at the moment that I was just feeling so low that I probably would have done anything for anybody just to feel accepted and
Yeah.
validated. And that is a scary place to be. And I mean, I prayed that prayer with fear and trembling. I don't know if anyone's ever been there. You just feel so like, I'm lonely. Things are a struggle. I can't feel like I'm getting life right now. I just want to feel rescued. I want to feel like I'm not just going through and being hard pressed all the time.
Yeah.
And, because the trials of life that make you, there's a breaking in it. And I was at that point, I was like, God, just in case, protect me. Like, don't let anyone even smile at me. And no one was that I knew of, but it would have been the great time to send a counterfeit. And so just, it's not good, but because of the fact that no one ever pursued me, because that the Lord has sheltered me, I thought I wasn't pretty, I thought I wasn't likable, I thought I wasn't attractive, and I was waiting on a guy to show interest in me. So to tell it, because I thought from everything that I saw in the culture around me that a guy showing interest in you is what tells you you're pretty, or tells you you're likable, or tells you you're this or that or that. And then I came to myself at some point, or the Lord brought me to myself, and I realized, yeah, that's a lie, but I'm still having a hard time not believing it. So for me, and two, just like you, have wanted to be a wife and a mother my entire life. Like some of my friends, well, like, will be like, she's such a mom, and I don't have any children. Because I don't know, just the way I handle different things, or I actually am not all the way sure about why they say it, but they have their reasons for being like, you're such a mom, you're going to be such a good mom one day. I'm like, cool, great. Today is not that day though. We're single, we're living at home. Stop calling me a mom. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I knew that I needed a season. I really wanted a season where I lived like after college, independent on my own. So I knew that I could do it, because I would have very willingly just let my whole self be wrapped up, and not in the way that you were talking about like knowing that this is who you are, what you're made for, but having yourself in it. I would have lost myself
Yeah.
to a man and to my children, and thought that that was the right thing to do, because I did not see where I would have anything to offer the world outside of offering the world children and supporting an amazing man and something wonderful that he's doing. Now, here's the thing. I still want to marry and support an amazing man and what he's doing, but I know that I'm called to amazing things too, and we're going to do those amazing things together,
Yeah.
And so I knew that I had to, well, I eventually learned or realized that my journey was to walk out this life of singleness longer than I would have liked, to be more ready for what was coming in my future, and to really love me and accept me now, or else, marriage wouldn't have worked for me. I can't say that divorce or anything like that would have happened, but I don't think that I would have been fulfilled or had nearly the experience that I was wanting to have with that like poor self-perception. If that does that make sense? I don't know if I made
Yeah,
sense.
it does make sense. I think that even in that, what I'll say is this: if you have, live a surrendered life to the Lord, obviously the Lord knows our past and our journeys, what we're supposed to choose. And even when we don't choose what he necessarily wants us to choose, he has a way of bringing us back to, I guess I'll call it ground zero, like right to who we are.
Yeah,
Like,
that's good.
this is it. This is who you are, because even in that, like, the Lord didn't allow for certain things to happen in my marriage so I wouldn't lose sight of my identity.
That's great.
So it was like, even though I, slapped marriage onto my life or whatever, it was still like not, things were blocked from me. I was still very, very, very protected in that, I will say there was a lot of religious dogma that was involved in my life just because of the way I grew up and the people around me. You know, my ex-husband was, also brought up in that culture. So, that was just like, a lot of, stuff that would just very religious, old school, mentality of like social norms, what the woman is supposed to do, what the man is supposed to do. Those are not totally wrong all the time. But when it comes from a place of, like the chains of religion, then it does become restrictive and abusive. And, it was because of God's love, that factor right there just did allow me to see who I really was in all of that. Like I would push the line every time, like, no, I'm not doing that. Nope, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing, it was just like, no, there were certain things that, I would submit to, because biblically,
Sure.
that we are, and my covenant was not just with my husband, but I had a covenant with God and my husband. It's the three-way covenant. So, I would honor and respect as much as possible, but there were just some things that I'm like, that's not me, and when the Lord told me to just start seeking him totally, things start to drop off in that marriage until the marriage just dissolved because he didn't evolve with, growth. He wanted to stay in this one place. He didn't even want to stay in the 60. I don't even know if he wanted to stay in the 30. It was like 15. He wanted to stay right there. And he didn't want to grow. And it was just like, I want more of God, So no matter, I would just say this to the listeners, like, no matter what your journey is, if it's marriage or if it's, being single for a while, or if you desire to be married and, the Lord has that plan for you, just know wherever you are, God is going to develop you. He really is. You are going to be who he intended you to be if you obey what he's asking you to do in that season. I think that is the key right there. You knew at the age of 12 to pray that prayer.
No, Wendy, I didn't know to pray that prayer.
Something
I knew that I didn't want to date around and have my heart broken. I was like, God, I'm too good for. I knew there was like, if God is God and he's my God and he gives good things, there's no way that this is supposed to be my portion when marriage is supposed to be great. No, one time, sir. And
well,
it won't be good.
I think that is also a misconception. Me and my mom have had this conversation too. There are benefits and there are joys to marriage. But if we only look at it from that aspect, we'll miss a lot of what marriage really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a partnership. It is, yes, there's love there, but what is love really? Jesus died because he loved us. Was that fun? No, that was not fun. So when we look at what marriage really is, we really have to take the Hollywood romanticized, throw that all the way in the trash, shred it up in the garbage disposal, and shoot it far away. Cosmic. Go away. That's not what it is. And when we really embrace what it is, then it becomes even better than that.
That's so good, Wendy. I love it because, and I did not know we were going to end up talking so much about marriage and defining who you are this is great. This is fun. This is good. I love where it's going. I love that. Now, the choice not to date, no one ever really pursued me, but I knew at different times I could be a pursuer. Like, there are women who, that's how. I was talking with a friend recently and they were like, every guy that I dated, I let him know I liked him first. And I had these moments when I was like, you're not letting me. And then I feel like it was probably Holy Spirit. If you wanted to, you could. So if you want to, go for it.
Yeah.
But do you really want to? And I was like, no, I really want your way. And what I found was I was able to learn what it was really meant to be. Because in this process, God's talked to me a lot about what my husband is supposed to be like, what my marriage is going to be like, who he is, how he is. And I'm grateful for that, because number one, that's something like people don't tell you. Now, I'm not just saying go and like ask that. Well, okay, let me backtrack. I've heard and people talk about like asking God for a list, telling the Lord what you want so that he will give you that. I would venture to say that, because I've heard of people who've done that and what was on their list happened. I would venture to say that God put in your heart what he wanted for you because you were
Yeah.
talking with him, and then you asked him for what he wanted to give you anyway.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'll say this. This is what I'm really trying to get at. I'm really grateful for the years where the fact that I've always been single, because it let me come into who I was and really know who I am and what I want to bring to the marriage. Because that's another thing. Like, I remember telling God, I don't want to just get married and look for him to provide all the stuff. I want to bring something
Yeah.
to my marriage. And what I thought I was going to bring versus what I thought was important to bring, like finances and house and assets and stuff, that's cool, I've got that. But that what I'm actually bringing, that was really the heart of that, is even better. Like,
Yeah.
I have a sense of self. I know who I am. I've already been praying for you, and I can't say I know everything about your life, but I know what you're called to, and I'm already committed to
Yeah.
that, and a whole host of things. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that have had the chance. For me, this is my journey. Now, my journey is so different than everybody else's. It's not a better way to go. Like, you having been married and finding who you are and growing into yourself. If I had gotten married when I was in my 20s, that would have been the story, but that just wasn't Alicia's journey. And I think a big part of what's coming out of this particular episode is exactly what you said. Wherever you are, God is going to define you. It's walking it out with God and letting him be the one to reveal your identity to you.
Yeah.
And accepting that wherever you are. Like, you could have been in your marriage and not accepting growing in the Lord and been disgruntled. I could have continued living a single life, wishing I was married and never being satisfied. But when I was like, I'm just going to embrace where I am in life, because me being here I am in life is not about being single or married. It's about being Alicia with God, like, and letting him bring all of that into, and letting him make of my life what it can be, which is better than what I had planned, actually. I love how it's turning out.
Right. I think that's awesome, because it's like the expression of our scrolls. We're fleshing out our scrolls in different stages and different forms, and sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. I think that is really great. Like, one thing I will say, to what you've said about, like, knowing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
There's an element about relationship that shows you that you cannot see. Like, I cannot see what my hair looks like back here right now.
So true.
Cannot. It's probably a hot mess. But someone standing behind me can, and having that element of relationship provides, perspective and point of views of yourself that you cannot see. So even in the things that were dead wrong about my ex, I still learned a lot from him, because it revealed ugliness in me, or parts that were weak in me that needed to be strengthened. And the truth is the truth. And I would just have to take it to the Lord, like, oh, I do that. I need to be better at XYZ or whatever, and it's like, I think, it's the whole iron sharpen iron mentality, like rubbing against each other makes you sharp. You know what I mean? So there are those aspects of marriage where it's like, yeah, I know myself, because I do believe that the Lord is going to allow me to be married again one day, and I know myself in this phase, but I am not afraid to relearn myself with someone else and what that might look like. Because, you know, you take on a whole nother ministry dynamic when you are in covenant with somebody in any type of relationship.
Yeah, I've definitely, in our friendship with like the leadership of KCI, as we've grown, we didn't even know how we were coming together. And I have learned so much about like humility and laying down my, like learning that my ideas, even though they're good, are not the best ideas all the time, and we don't have to do it the way I see it to be done for it to be good. Like that was a big thing. And you know, one of the cool things too about learning in a group, the kind of covenant relationship we have, at least in ministry, is this is not my own. Laying down my right for, like, I have to think sometimes this is how I prefer it, but this isn't mine. This is the Lord's, and all of us are in it together. So sure, let's do it, because this isn't mine.
Yep.
You know, this, and what's for the greater good.
Yep.
Those kinds of things have made me better, like made me easier to work with, made me a nicer person in some
It's less
aspects.
stressful too.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you have to own the responsibility of having the idea, because that's stressful. That can be stressful sometimes. And I always say, like, I've, you know, just kind of recently adapted this, like maybe the past 2 to 3 years, but I relinquished my right to be right for his righteousness.
That's good.
I'd rather be righteous than be right. You know, like, because that was my thing. In my marriage, I had to be right all the time. I was right with a degree from Wright State with rightness on top of it. Okay, that was my thing. Yes, but I gave it up. I give that up, and I prefer his righteousness, which is way better.
Way better.
Being right.
Wasn't that so good? Okay, here is a quick sneak peek into the last part of this series, part 4. Here you go.
For a long time, I was a wife and a mother. I was a stay-at-home mom. You know, I did the things. I was on all the volunteered on all the committees at the school. I was that lady, you know what I mean? And I thought that was my identity. But it started to become my identity. And I think that's dangerous, where, you know, when you take on your position or role of serving as who you are, that's not necessarily who you are.
Y'all, it's getting gooder and gooder. I don't even think gooder is a word, but that's just the best word I can come up with. I just love conversation with Wendy. There's so much wisdom and encouragement. And sometimes she can share that thing that you really need to hear, and it cuts, but she says it's so nice that it goes down easy. Wendy and her niece Christian have an amazing Instagram social media page called Spoonful of Sugar, and they have some fantastic videos. You've got to check them out. I'll put their handle in the link below, because the same way that she can give you the hard talk and it goes down real easy, she's so good at that. And Spoonful of Sugar, they have some amazing conversation there. So listen, a new episode is gonna drop this Friday, so check that out. Don't forget to follow on Instagram and Facebook at modernwoman.cc to stay in the know. You can check out the website as well, where you can have the landing page for my podcast and vlogs. So much great content just to edify and encourage you and build you up while you are out there winning. That is what I'm all about here with Modern Woman. There are fun spaces to connect, and again, I'll share the deets in the show notes. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining the story today, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye now.